being that Father's Day is coming up and that's this weekend, I know we've done certain things like this just to kind of cap off videos. And if you have something else at the end or Chris has something, that's totally fine. This doesn't have to be the end of the episode by any stretch. But I do want to celebrate the fathers in sports. And so my question to both of you guys would be, what are some of your favorite father-son duos in sports? Doesn't have to be the best. We're not ranking them, but just kind of your favorite, somebody that you've seen both generations of, or just guys that you think needs to be celebrated for being good dads, being good sons, and bringing up your kids in a way that makes them successful as well. All right, guys, welcome back. Here we are, one more podcast. Doing a little different this week. I know normally I ask you guys how your week has been, but I think this time, Brian, I'm going to ask you what you're looking forward to this weekend. I think you've got some travel plans.
Yeah, I'm headed down to the beach for a week and get to enjoy Father's Day down there. Sadly, I won't see one of my sons, but I'll have the other one with me. So I'll get to talk to one on the phone and one in person, and hopefully it'll be a good Father's Day. What about
Yeah,
you,
hope
Chris?
you enjoy your time down there for sure. And that is the main reason why we are recording this a little bit early. We're recording it on Thursday night instead of the typical Friday night or Saturday morning that we usually do. So we wanted to get on here and talk about. We've got actually got a lot of things that have happened over the last week since the last time that we've gotten on here. So, Chris, what about you? What's been going on with you?
Oh, not much, I guess. That's just doing some work, working on a separate YouTube channel, which I still won't plug yet. I'm not quite ready to do that, and working behind the scenes here with some editing stuff and just following a little bit of sports. I know I said this last time. I'm getting ready for that college football game, getting more exciting. I think they're getting ready to drop a few more deep dives and drop some more info just to get their sales all the way up and let people know exactly what you're getting when you buy it.
Yeah, and you mentioned being excited. One thing that I'm excited about is our subscriber count. I know we had talked about being at 96, I believe it was, the last time we recorded. Since then, I think it was Sunday morning we hit 100. We are now up to 106. So we did not even get a chance to really celebrate hitting 100 on air. Now we've kind of gotten a few past that. So really excited to see the growth. And of course, we want to thank everybody that has subscribed, both new and old. Thanks for sticking with us if you've been here from the beginning. But of course, we welcome anybody here. So just wanted to kind of stick that out there and thank everybody for the trip that we've been on so far, and looking forward to it continuing. But we do have a good bit to talk about, so we won't keep anybody waiting. I know the one thing that I've been very interested in seeing is the last few dominoes are starting to fall. Obviously, we talked about Aaron Rodgers signing with Pittsburgh and everything like that. That was last weekend's big news. Since then, we've had a couple of the running backs that have been on the move. So Nick Chubb has signed a contract. I believe both of the ones that I'm going to bring up are just 1 year deals, but he signs with the Houston Texans. This seems to be insurance for Joe Mixon, who has been in a walking boot this offseason. But I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on it and what do you think about this move. I know you both being Georgia fans. Nick Chubb is somebody that holds a special place in both of your hearts and minds. So what do you think about this move, and what do you think he still has left to give, if anything?
I think it's a
Yeah.
great move. I think it's going to take some off Mixon, which is going to be a much needed relief. I think you might see a little bit of resurgence. I don't think he's going to be, what the running back he was when he first got to the NFL or when he left Georgia. You know, he suffered a few ACL tears, and obviously that's going to hurt. So I don't think he has the speed that he used to have. He's still a very, very strong young man. So I've had the privilege of meeting him a couple of times. Um, he went to high school just down the road from me. And with my son being in sports, obviously we crossed paths. Great, great guy. Could not ask for a better personality. He's very quiet, but he's just as polite and super nice. And that makes for a great teammate. So I think he's going to bring a lot to the Texans. I like this move, and I look forward to seeing him over there.
Yeah, what about you, Chris? Any thoughts on the Nick Chubb signing?
I was muted due to a helicopter. Uh, yeah, I am really concerned. So you got your top back in a boot. You've got you bring in another guy who has snapped his leg in half twice now. Don't you want a guy that's maybe not had a lot of injuries on your roster somewhere? And I'm sure somewhere down the depth chart there is a young prospect, and I just don't have the roster in front of me right now. But I
The
would,
guy that you're
I would
looking for is Woody Marks.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Well, I would feel comfortable having a more established guy with less devastating injuries to provide depth. And of course, the first thing that comes to mind in defense of what I just said is Adrian Peterson. Well, I forget what his injury was, but he had it around 30, 31 years old. He came back to lead the league the next year in rushing yards, and I think maybe even won the MVP. It's been a while, I can't remember. So it certainly doesn't mean that he can't contribute because modern medicine is very good at getting you back into in playing shapes. So I think that it's probably good he's got a chance to do something somewhere else. I think he's just way too talented, regardless of injuries, to not at least be given a chance. And a 1 year contract, you're not really investing long term into him anyway.
Yeah, for sure. The one thing that worries me about not necessarily Nick Chubb, but just the Texans in general is their offensive line is not great. It wasn't great last year. They had one really good offensive lineman, that was Laramie Tunsil, and then they shipped him off to the Commanders this offseason. I do believe they used their second round pick or one of their second round picks on an offensive lineman to replace him. But just I'm not sure if that's going to be enough for any of those running backs to be especially productive with Mixon and Chubb having their injury histories. Like I said, they did bring in Woody Marks, who I believe started his college career at the University of South Carolina, but transferred to USC, the other USC, Southern Cal. Very, very good prospect. A lot more receiving talent than either of the two backs ahead of him. He might get some work this year just out of necessity
Mhm.
because he can offer things that the two older backs ahead of him that are not exactly the pinnacles of health can offer at this stage of the game. Uh, but speaking of injured running backs, the other big signing, J.K. Dobbins, who we saw with the Chargers last year, has signed with the Denver Broncos. I think this was kind of a big blow to a lot of people that pay attention to the rookies and everything like that. And I was certainly one of them because I really bought into R.J. Harvey. He was their rookie second round pick out of UCF. Very fast, very good receiving back. Has drawn some comparisons to Alvin Kamara, and maybe this is indictment on Audric Estime, who was a rookie last year, that maybe he's just not progressing the way that they think, and maybe this is supposed to be the Mark Ingram role for the Sean Payton offense. But Dobbins signs again a 1 year deal with Denver. He is expected to split carries with RJ Harvey and be kind of a two-headed monster there. Did either of you have thoughts? I guess we'll go to Chris first about J.K. Dobbins and what you saw from him last year and what you think he can offer this year.
It just sounds like a great insurance policy with a guy you're not sure about yet because he's so young. So I don't have too many thoughts on that personally. I haven't followed his career greatly. In fact, I've followed it a bit more just on my Madden game because I took over the Chargers and moved them to Alaska. So I think it's good when you've got a young guy in there to go ahead and get a veteran presence in there to take the pressure off of you to perform immediately.
Well, I don't think it's not only is it going to take a little bit of the pressure off, but more of a player coach. I think is what they were going for. Dobbins is pretty good running back, been in the league for a while, knows the game, can can tell this young rookie this is what you're looking for, this is what you need to do, because college is not the NFL. It plays totally different. So I think it's probably a pretty good move for Denver. Decent line. They've got their young quarterback who, with Knicks that did an exceptional job last year. So I think I like this move. I don't see, unlike the Texans where you're bringing in injuries and you've already got an injured running back. So I like this move. I think it's going to be pretty good. It's going to be good for both running backs.
Yeah, I think not to put bad juju on Denver, but if you look at what Cleveland did going into Baker Mayfield's second season, Baker Mayfield showed that he had everything it took to compete in the NFL level. And so they said, okay, we've got a guy. We can build around him and we can push our chips in and we can try to compete now because we feel like we've got somebody. Bo Nix showed that same level of promise that Baker Mayfield did as a rookie in Cleveland. And so now you look at their offensive pieces. They still have Cortland Sutton. They have Devon Vele. They just signed Pat Bryant as a rookie. I think they took him in the third or fourth round. There's a lot of promise in there. Marvin Mims is still there. We've seen him kind of playmaker that he can be. Then they bring in Evan Ingram, who was formerly of the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are really rounding out this offense. They draft R.J. Harvey because Javonte Williams is now a Dallas Cowboy. And so then you're looking at Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime, and you've got nothing but young backs. Now we need another guy that can tote the rock and be successful, lighten the load of that rookie, show him how to be successful, kind of like what you were talking about. And it's just like you said, it's insurance. It's making sure that this offense doesn't falter. And they've got I think a top 5 offensive line as far as pass blocking goes. I'm not sure what their run blocking numbers were last year, but RJ Harvey being a great pass catcher as he is, J.K. Dobbins is no slouch in that as well. And if you look at their defense, it's even better than what their offense projects to be. So Denver is going to try to compete in that division, and they needed to. It's a very tough division for sure. Dobbins, I think, if you remember, he was coming out of Ohio State, and everybody thought he was just going to be the next guy, and got drafted, I believe, in the second round, early in the second, to Baltimore. Everybody just thought he was going to hit the ground running, pardon the pun, and he's just been completely derailed by injuries. It just seems like every year he gets cut short by injuries. Last year, signing with the Chargers, he come in, I think through the first 4 weeks of the season, he was actually leading the NFL in rushing, missed a couple of games. When he came back, he wasn't as effective. It seemed like he wore down a little bit more. So I do expect Denver to lean on Harvey, but having Dobbins as that change of pace and a thunder and lightning type combination could be good for them. But I think that's really all we had for the NFL. Chris, I know you were staying up last night watching the NBA Finals. We had Game 3 last night. Game 4 will be tomorrow. And it certainly seems like we've had to eat some crow because of a couple of takes that we made here on the podcast and the associated shorts that came with that. So I'll let you talk about Game 3 and what you thought about it.
All right. Well, I guess I'll probably clip this out too, but guys, here's the thing. I was wrong. It happens. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. The Pacers can win this series. But you can't really blame me for picking a 68 win Thunder team that's not even really struggled to this point outside of a game or two. And actually, to this point, they still haven't. Um, and that's why I'm going to say that I'm also sorry to Pacers fans that I'm still not convinced. I'm not saying you can't win it. I'm saying that I'm not convinced you will. But I do see you. I see that you're gonna make this a series. I could still see the Thunder winning this in 7. I fully expect them to. It ain't going 5. I don't think. I fully expect them to wake up and maybe even put together like a 20-point win here soon, and then you're gonna have a whole new series. You're gonna have a best of 3 then. So I got it wrong. I made some jokes. You guys laughed at me. You have every right to, but like, you can't blame me. The Thunder have looked great, and you still can't claim your championship quite yet.
Yeah, and I think that's the cool thing about the series. I know we've talked about it before. One of these teams is going to win their first ever championship in team history. So it's going to be cool to see no matter what. But whereas we thought that maybe OKC had just everything to dog walk whoever they played in the finals, the Pacers are putting up a fight. They won 116 to 107 last night to take a 2-1 lead. The biggest surprise, I mean, Halliburton's obviously a great player. We've seen that throughout these playoffs, especially. He had 22 points, 11 assists. I think he had 9 rebounds. So a very good all-around performance from him. But the most shocking number was the amount of turnovers that the Thunder had. Very unlike them to have that many turnovers, just that kind of sloppiness. And if you tell me that reigning MVP SGA doesn't have 6 turnovers, do the Thunder still lose that game? Probably not. I think they've got some bugs that they're going to work out over the couple of days in between games and everything like that. They're going to clean some stuff up, and they're going to try really hard not to go down 3-1. And I told Chris, as much as this looks like Indiana has that upper hand, I think I saw on the pregame show they said the team that wins game 3, when you have a tied series going into it, they go on to win the series 80% of the time. But I think the Thunder is a team capable of being that 20%. I think losing game 3 hurts, but it does not put an end to the series by any stretch. And we could see it just as easily going 2-2 and then 3-2 the other way in favor of the Thunder very, very quickly.
Yep.
And Brian is still anti-basketball, so I won't ask him what he thinks about it.
No, you're right. I have been watching the hockey though, and pulling for the Panthers. So
yeah,
that was kind of the next thing. That's the next thing I wanted to bring up, and usually I throw that over to Chris, but I'll let you kind of start things off as far as the Stanley Cups and what have you taken from it so far?
Well, I still can't find myself watching the full game, but I do enjoy, watching the last period and or maybe the last 5 to 10 minutes of it, 15 minutes of it, whatever I can catch. It still comes on fairly late, so I do have to go to bed. So, but I have been keeping up with it, and super happy that the Panthers have now taken a 2-1 after dropping game 1. So they're leading. They play at 8:00 Eastern time, so about 15 minutes from now, I guess. So I'll probably catch a little bit of it tonight before I go to bed. And but yeah, and I might even, while I'm down in Florida, I might even pick up a Panthers shirt or jersey or something.
I'm sure they will be around.
They will.
And Chris, what do you think about it? I know people can tell from our socials we've been Florida Panthers fans throughout this. Screw Canada and all that good stuff. I think we're still a little salty about the Four Nations thing, but just as far as the series going so far, how hopeful are you that Florida's going to be able to pull this out and keep that Stanley Cup in America where it belongs?
Well, I remember on the last one here, I gave Edmondson a lot of credit that I doubted them in the beginning, but I said that it was a lot more even than I was giving them credit for. Now it's looking like it's not so even. I think the last game was 6-1. I didn't check how many of those were actually just empty net goals because that can inflate a score a little bit. But regardless, they've blown it wide open, and I don't see them losing that momentum. So I think they're on their way to a another championship. It's not like basketball where I could see it going all the way to 7. I feel like this one's kind of in hand. And so suck it, Canada.
And I think they're back in Florida, if I'm not mistaken.
Game
They
4,
played
this one should game 4 should be in Florida, yeah, and then they'll alternate from there on out.
And if they take a 3-1 lead, I mean that's just
Yeah.
a commanding lead in any sport, really.
Oh yeah.
You don't come back down 3-1 very often from much that I've seen.
You put that in a handful of teams throughout entire history.
Right, right. And kind of like what you said, that 6-1 or 7-1 score can be very inflated. We see that with basketball. A lot of times you get to the end, all of a sudden you're having to foul intentionally just to save the clock. They start making free throws. Stuff doesn't go your way. And whereas it could have been a 2 or 3 point game for the last 10 minutes, then in the last 2 minutes, all of a sudden it inflates to a 10 or 11 point game. You're like, oh man, they got killed. Well, no, they really didn't. There's some context to that. But
Yeah.
I don't care if they win by 1 goal or 10 at this point. You ask any hockey player, any real hockey player, doesn't matter. Winning is winning.
Yeah.
Ain't that right?
It's hard to win.
So I was kind of surprised that Brian was so voluntarily watching hockey. That was something I expected.
Yeah.
But it'll be your turn to talk again because I think the U.S. Open started. Was it yesterday?
Today, actually.
Today?
Yeah.
Talk to us about it.
Most PGA tournaments run from Thursday through Sunday. Obviously, the first 2 days are trying to make the cut. So yeah, today was the first round of the U.S. Open at Oakmont, which if you don't know golf, then you're not going to understand how incredibly hard Oakmont is. It's in Pennsylvania. Um, it's not, uh, there's no water, there's not a lot of water hazard. There is a good many bunkers, but I guess the biggest thing is the rough is just crazy long, and it's got super tight fairways. So if you're not a very accurate person, right here, I'll claim it. It is not the place to play. You can lose the ball just barely in the rough. It's absolutely nuts trying to play there. Um, so you will see, like, you're not going to see these crazy big scores like you would at, say, some of the courses in Arizona or Florida or stuff like that, where it's a little easier to hit fairways. And these guys are so good, they're not going to hit in the water too much anyway. So, but yeah, right now 4 under is leading it, which is a really really good score um, for that place. But again, that can go away in 2 holes tomorrow. But so the first 2 days, it's all about trying to make the cut, and then really you see the good, really good golf, played on Saturday and Sunday. Um, some notables is one of my favorite golfers, Bryson DeChambeau. He is not. He did not have a good day today. I think he was. Last time I checked it, he was 3 over for the day. Um, I think Scheffler was even par, which ought to tell you how hard this golf course is. Um, but yeah, it's a tough place to play. So I'm looking forward. I don't even know that I'm going to be able to catch it. Saturday is going to be my travel day, so won't be able to watch much TV there. And then Sunday, I may be playing golf down in Florida, so I don't know how much I'll watch then either. And then one other thing, coming back, I will actually get to spend some time with my brother and stop in where he's living at down in South Georgia. So looking forward to
Yeah,
that.
definitely. I've been prepping my boss already, and I told him when I leave for lunch, I might not come back. We'll have to work out some details as far as how we're going to spend the day, but definitely looking forward to it. I don't know if Chris is doing anything on Wednesday. If he wants to come over as well, make that drive across the state, and we'll get the boys together for the first time ever.
Yeah, that might be
Brian and
crazy.
Chris have never been in the same room. I don't know if any of our viewers actually knew that. They've never met in person. Everything's been done either by camera or by phone. So that would be cool to see. We'll make that happen for you guys at some point and
Yeah.
get that going.
Yeah,
Uh,
and maybe take a vacation down to Savannah one time.
yeah, that would certainly be easy for one of us. That person would be Chris.
Yeah, I got that covered.
But I did want to let Brian talk about golf for a minute because I knew he was going to check immediately back out at the next topic. And I'm
Yep.
not even sure if I really prepped Chris for this one at all, but I want to talk a little bit of wrestling. I know
Yeah.
we had filmed some wrestling content last week going into Money in the Bank, and since then, Money in the Bank has happened and Monday Night Raw has happened. We've had a lot change in the short term. So obviously, we did a little bit of predictions. One of mine came true in that Naomi won the women's Money in the Bank briefcase. And then I think we had mentioned that the obvious answer was Seth Rollins. Neither one of us wanted to pick him. And of course, we looked foolish as a result because Seth Rollins won the men's Money in the Bank. Of course, why not?
Yeah.
But then the big surprise, one thing that I did want to talk to you, Monday Night Raw came and went, and Jey Uso's reign as World Heavyweight Champion ended. He lost to Gunther, who is now a two-time World Heavyweight Champion. And I want to get your thoughts on camera about that because I figured you would be pretty happy about it.
Well, you don't know my thoughts? Man,
I do, but maybe our viewers don't. I feel like they need to hear it.
this is exactly what you deserve, Jey Uso. I got a super kick, I got a splash, and I got an entrance where I just waved my hands up and down. That is all you had, aside from, merchandise sales and everything, whatever. And look, I'm not sitting here saying that Gunther is the greatest world champion of all time. In fact, I would say that I'm not a fan or a hater of him, but I am a hater of Jey Uso. He's not main event material. I've said this about 5 times on here, probably. I'm just so happy that it ended for him. It sucks that he made it to 50 days. I think you could have been good with 2 weeks. Get your sales in on your merchandise and your little happy moments at WrestleMania. But I am glad that someone around there was listening to, probably, I want to say it's 50-50. I think it's more like 60-40 on people that didn't believe in Jey Uso as a real champion. And just to go off script here, because I wasn't even gonna mention this, but I might as well say it on here, is that Jey Uso has been a world champion. People that have not been a world champion include LA Knight.
Yeah,
Yeah, help me out here. Let's see. There's some really good names on there that you would think should have been a world champion, and yet it went to a lifelong tag team wrestler with a bunch of DUI arrests with his brother, and not the greatest singles wrestling skills. Uh,
I'll throw my favorite one out
yeah,
there. Kind of
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
he's known for something else now, but Wade Barrett. The fact that
Yeah,
Wade Barrett was never world champion, now is a commentator, and he, for all intents and purposes, he's retired from in-ring
yeah.
competition. Obviously, we've seen announcers come and do certain things. Pat McAfee had a pay-per-view match not that long ago, if you recall, against your world champion Gunther, uh, but never won a world championship, and to this day, that really bothers me.
Finn Balor, he's obviously been a one-day champion due to an injury. So that also sucks that, like, on paper, Uso looks like he was more of a legitimate main event champion than Finn Balor, and I think that's really stupid to see in the record books. But there are dumber things in the record books, like like the Honky Tonk Man being like a 2-year Intercontinental Champion. So
Well, I
it
do
don't
think this
always
is
have to.
actually something that Brian could cut in on real quick. Brian, do you have somebody from your days of watching wrestling that you always wanted to be a world champion and that never won it?
Oh Lord, I don't
I think
know.
I could
it's
probably
going
give
way
him
back.
one from his days.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of people from back when I was a kid. Um,
Got one.
yeah, I think the biggest name, and he may have been a world champion. I don't remember. Was the Junkyard Dog?
Oh,
Um, I don't think he
he was
was.
not. Mm-mm.
For a long
Um,
time, they didn't have a black world champion,
Right,
so
right.
I
yeah,
think that automatically counts him out of it.
but he was a big name, and I want to
Yeah.
say he lived in the Atlanta area for a while back when he was wrestling. Um, our father actually worked in the jewelry business for a while, and I guess that's why he became one of my favorite wrestlers, is because he was one of the first one I ever met because he bought
Mm.
some jewelry from the company our dad worked at the time. So um, big personality, uh, kind of reminded me of Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Um, he was another one. I believe he was world champion though.
I don't think
Uh,
so.
really?
He
No,
won the Royal Rumble, but I don't think he ever won a world title.
no.
So, I mean, there's you a couple of way back in the day names.
I would have
Chris, I think
thought.
you said you had another one.
Yeah, I would have thought one that a lot of people around his age say that, and a lot of people are outspoken about it. Ted DiBiase, the Million Dollar
Yeah,
Man,
yeah,
sort of was a world champion because he bought it from Yokozuna after, like, he paid him no, it was Andre the Giant, after he paid him to screw over Hogan or whatever. But they don't recognize that. They stripped him of the title immediately and said that's no good, which is a weird thing to do because you guys wrote the storyline, and it's like, well, he broke the rules that you set out in place. But yeah, yeah, there's a few guys back in the day, and there's plenty of guys right now that deserve it, and yet this tag team guy. But I think what Brad was really wanting to get at is, we text about this a little bit, is the King of the Ring tournament's going on right now, and the Queen of the Ring tournament's going on right now. And what I was texting him is, I'm a huge fan of the first round was fatal four-way matches, and you have that winner advancing to the next round. I think it's a great way to get some people that you believe in, that you want to showcase, but you're not exactly ready to push to the next level, because going into that match, you have no idea which of those four, you might have some idea, but you have no idea which of those four are going to go ahead and advance to the next round. And I kind of view this as a fun way to just expand the field. And I really like the format they've got going with this. I think they just brought it back last year, if I'm not mistaken. Brad, I'm sure knows the answer to this. But you, when you won that, you used to get a world championship match at SummerSlam. I believe that went away for about 15 to 20 years, has come back last year, and which is why we still have Gunter sitting here in the championship picture, because he won it and has been in the title picture ever since. So I do like everything they're doing with King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of liken it in my mind to the play-in games. You
Mhm.
start looking at the March Madness tournaments, you look at the NBA playoffs and everything like that. Like you have a field, and you're not really in until you win that first match. And so, rather than expanding the tournament, watering it down, it's kind of one of those like now you've got a fatal four-way match, and with it being not an elimination match, but just a one fall fatal four-way, it really makes a lot of predictability because Cody Rhodes is in a match and it's like, okay, well, normally if he's a one on one, he's going to be the heavy favorite. But if he doesn't even have to be pinned to lose that match just by not being involved in the decision, it's kind of a way of protecting him if you have other plans.
Mhm.
But I'm glad that you brought up King of the Ring because I did want to bring up one other thing about the King of the Ring, and
Okay.
that is that we saw, I believe it is four fatal four-way matches, two on each side, two Raw and two SmackDown in both the men's and women's brackets. And whereas the women's bracket, if I'm not mistaken, is completely filled, in the men's bracket on one of the Raw matches, fatal four-way, there is a mystery opponent, somebody that has not been announced, one person that's hidden, and I didn't know if you had noticed that or if you had given any thought to who it might be
I
or
thought I
who maybe
saw
you would
the.
like to see.
I thought it was already revealed to be Rusev, or was he already in the match?
I believe he's already in it. I think it's
Okay, so
him
no,
and Sheamus and somebody else.
I don't have a clue in that case then. But it's always fun to put that mystery in there. AEW does it a lot, to a bit of a letdown. A lot of times they'll bring on a guy from Japan that
Speedball Mike
a few
Bailey.
people have heard of, or a guy from the Indies that a few people have heard of. But even if it is a letdown, regardless of what company it is, it does keep some kind of mystery and fun to it. So that's always good.
Well, I do have a few names I'll bring up real quick and then we can move on.
Okay.
I'll give you four names, and if you want to talk about any of them or say a preference.
Yeah.
So we could have an NXT call up, somebody like an Oba Femi, long
Mhm.
reigning NXT champion. You've got Ilya Dragunov, who
Mhm.
this would be, I think it's a rumored name. He is a little bit ahead of timeline as far as when they expected him back from the gruesome injury he suffered. So it would be a
Mhm.
surprise if it was him. But now's kind of that time that you start speculating on him returning. This would be
Mhm.
a cool setting. Obviously, if you say his name, he will appear. So I will say Joe Hendry is a possibility for that. And then the last thing I want to bring up is that match, that fatal four way with the mystery opponent, is taking place in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So if you want to drop the mic down from the ceiling, this is my crazy one. Mr. Kennedy would be a really cool inclusion. Again, he doesn't have to win, but it would be a cool one-off appearance. Obviously, I'll throw one other just because I just thought about it. I'm not sure if he's in the tournament. I don't believe he is because it would make sense for him to have been announced. But Ron Killings is another one I just thought of. So there's five names. I don't know what you think about any of those.
Absolutely love Mr. Kennedy to do that. I don't know that's going to happen. Uh, I feel like Ron Killings has his own things going on. He put on too much of a show and display of that to just kind of be added to the tournament. It could happen, but I love the idea of Mr. Kennedy. It's probably going to be Joe Hendry, because every time we've had a mystery thing in the last few months, it's been Joe Hendry. So
Well, it's either Joe Hendry or Brian Jr. You never know who's going to appear, but best believe one of them is.
yeah, I prefer Mr. Kennedy. I wouldn't bet money that it's going to be him at all, but that would be my favorite. I was a huge fan back around '07, '08 when he was being pushed to the moon, and a little backstage politics got him derailed by all accounts from things we've heard over the years. Love to see him one more time. I know he's got to be getting up there in age too, so I couldn't see him winning it and then going on to win a championship. But crazy
I
things have
mean,
happened.
Zach Gowen, the one-legged wonder,
Ah,
just had a return match
I
not too
saw.
long ago in AEW. So if he
I
can
saw.
come back for a one-off, why can't Mr. Kennedy come back, do an iconic injury? I really think that the roof would blow off that
Oh yeah.
place if he
Oh yeah.
were to come back and be that surprise opponent. And I think wrestling is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be entertaining, and they should do stuff like that more often. I think it would be a letdown if they didn't reach into that bag and make something like that happen. This is supposed to be different under the Triple H regime. So forget the politics from 10, 15 years ago
Yeah.
or longer.
Longer.
Mend fences, let him do something cool for the fans, and see if he's still got it. Maybe he's not
Yeah.
even in ring shape. Who knows? Just something I wanted to bring up, and it'll definitely be something we talk about after it happens and see what happens.
Yep.
Uh, but I did have one last thing that I wanted to bring up to you guys.
Well, I've got one thing as well, but go ahead.
Well, I just being that Father's Day is coming up and that's this weekend. I know we've done certain things like this just to kind of cap off videos. And if you have something else at the end, or Chris has something, that's totally fine. This doesn't have to be the end of the episode by any stretch. But I do want to celebrate the fathers in sports. And so my question to both of you guys would be, what are some of your favorite father-son duos in sports? Doesn't have to be the best. We're not ranking them, but just kind of your favorite, somebody that you've seen both generations of, or just guys that you think needs to be celebrated for being good dads, being good sons, and bringing up your kids in a way that makes them successful as well.
Uh, I mean, I'll go ahead and start, Chris, if you don't mind.
Good idea.
So, um, obviously, I watch a lot of golf. There is a celebrity golf tournament that's held in the beginning of the year. So, one of and it's one of my favorite events throughout the golfing season. But I've got two that I really like, two duels. I've got obviously Tiger Woods and Charlie Woods. They are so similar. Their mannerisms on and off the golf courses is very much the same. Um, hopefully Charlie doesn't follow some of the same paths Tiger has, but I mean, if he follows the same golf path, I mean, he's just gonna be incredible. Um, I can't get over how good that young man is, and I guess it shouldn't be a surprise being who his daddy is. Obviously, a goat. I mentioned it last episode, but they're really, really good. But growing up and playing golf in the era that I did, um, I always went to the bad boys of sports, and that's my second one. That's John Daly. John Daly is, if you've never watched any of his videos, he's in and around YouTube a lot. Um, just the super chilled, I don't care attitude. He drinks a lot of beer and he doesn't apologize for it. He smokes a lot of cigarettes, doesn't apologize for that either. Um, he's just if you wanted somebody to hang out with and go play golf, that is my choice, hands down. But his son, John Jr., I believe he plays for Arkansas, just like his dad did. You will see him on the PGA Tour eventually. He is a phenomenal golfer. Um, I don't know that he hits as long as his dad used to back in the day, but he is just incredible. So that's my two favorite pairings. I love to watch them. They split the PNG every year. One year it's Charlie and Tiger, next year it's John and Little John. So um, that's my favorite. That's the two that I'm going to bring up.
And
Suppose
if
you
you
say
haven't ever,
John.
if you're not familiar with golf and you don't know who John Daly is by name, I promise you've seen the meme of his where it's two guys standing on the golf course. One of them's wearing like the tucked in polo, the pressed khaki. He's just what you expect a pro golfer to look like. And then there's John Daly with his beard, smoking a big cigar, just like a fat stogie on the golf course. I think he's wearing like a pink shirt and some floral pants. Just he's the epitome of no f's given, and that's his personality. And he's always been known and either loved or hated for it.
You could
Yep,
say he puts the
100%.
redneck in golf.
100%.
He
Oh,
puts the
100%.
man.
Margaritaville in golf. Let's get it right.
Yeah, that's about right.
Chris, I'll let you go next. So you got
I was gonna go a different direction. I won't call this a great father and son duo. I'll actually call it something worse, but I guess in the spirit of it all, where I'm going is that it's one of the more fascinating stories that I've come across in my life, and that is of one Todd and Marv Marinovich. If you're not familiar with those two guys, um, get on ESPN films and watch that. And know if you're watching this video, you've probably seen some ESPN films. There's something called, I believe it was the Marinovich Project. Now, if you're not familiar with it still, let me just briefly go through it. Marv was a NFL player himself, and he created a training program to help out some upcoming talents to be in the most optimal shape and ready to go, or something like that. So he has a kid, and from the time that kid's born, he starts sculpting him into the strictest hardcore diets, workouts, all this stuff. He's going to create a quarterback, an NFL quarterback. And to his credit, he did. Um, but as you can imagine, just to kind of summarize that documentary, please go and watch it. It's a pretty good one. I believe it actually falls under the ESPN 30 for 30 series, not just ESPN films. But as you can imagine, being that strict and that hardcore, by the time his son gets to USC, as you can imagine, he starts getting into some drugs, some alcohol, some of the all these things his dad tried to stop him from before. Now he does go on to make it to the NFL with the Los Angeles Raiders, where he was only there for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years there, threw 8 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Didn't really work out for him, and then I think even after that, he was arrested plenty of times for drugs, had to go through rehab and all this stuff. So, I guess just it's great to see some of these stories, but I really hope that if you're out there hoping to be the next talked about father and son duo, that you're really going about it the right way, that you're not trying to create what they called robo quarterback, as was a nickname they had for him while that was happening. I hope that you guys are out there having fun together, and it's not something that dad really wanted for you, because that can have disastrous results. And without naming any names, I actually know someone personally who's got a kid in high school, and he was pushing him. He even created a recruiting, I don't know if I want to say, yeah, he's probably not watching. Created a recruiting page for his kids, both of his sons that he has sole custody of, already a recipe for disaster. Um, where he was like the class of 2029 and 2031 or something like that. And he's showing their 7-year-old highlights. And we're all sitting around, people I went to high school with, and we're going, this is a little weird, is it not? I just hope that people are having fun, not pushing their kids too hard, because if you do, you might end up in a Todd Marinovich situation. So, not a favorite, but definitely a fascinating story of what can go wrong if you become too obsessed.
yeah, for sure. And I guess mine might actually be the antithesis of that, because if you're looking at the best father and son duos, you're going to talk about Ken Griffey's, you're going to talk about Archie Manning and Peyton and Eli. Obviously, that
Mhm.
would be the top of most people's list, I think mine
Yeah.
included. And one of the ones that I thought Brian might suggest, and then he did not bring it up, is Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Dale Jr. Over in the NASCAR thing. I mean, NASCAR content has been huge for this channel, and just to
Sure.
bypass that, Brian, is insane. So
Oh,
shame on you.
shame.
Uh, yeah, in fact, if Chris wants to make this a TikTok, the shame bell from Game of Thrones
Yeah,
on Brian, I need
congrats.
that. I need that short on TikTok immediately.
All right, we'll see. We'll mark it.
But I think if I was going to pick one of my favorite dads in sports, it's actually LeBron James. Say what you want about him as a player. You can say he's not in the GOAT discussion. You can say that's Michael Jordan, nobody else. I don't really care about your thoughts on it. We'll get into that another day. But I think opposite of the Marinovich thing is if you're the son of LeBron James, I think you want to play basketball. I think you grew up around it. You saw it really control LeBron's life from a very young age, younger than most people, I think. The superstardom, the pressure, everything that he's had to deal with from the time he was a teenager and the way that he's handled it. Again, he's not a perfect person. He's not a perfect player. I don't agree with a lot of things that LeBron James says, but the one thing that he does is he loves his kids. He's always been a present father. It seems like he is a loving and caring father. He supports his kids. He does whatever they need to be successful, even if it means forcing your NBA team to draft you in the second round. Like he's there for his kids. Okay, Bronny James, probably not the caliber standard of most NBA players, but he's there and he's actually had flashes where he's looked pretty good, specifically down in the G League. So it's not anything that I'm grading these talents on, but just the way that he is there for his kids, the way that he's available and supportive is something that me as a father of a 2-year-old, it makes me want to be that level of father, to be present, to be interested, invested in my kids' success, take interest in their interests, support them, and make sure that they're loved every way. You cannot take anything away from LeBron James as a father. He's got another kid that not Bronny James, but a second one. His name is Bryson James, that I believe is a freshman this year at the University of Arizona playing basketball. That a lot of people think is the true heir apparent to the James name as far as NBA basketball goes. And I know that LeBron is proud of all of his kids and has a beautiful wife, beautiful family. And I just don't think that there is a higher caliber father that receives as much notoriety and has so many opportunities to screw up as what LeBron James does, and he, by all accounts, has not. So, really cool. Like, go ahead.
Well, you brought up the Earnhardt and Dale and Dale Jr., but you could also bring up even more recent than that, Coach Prime and his two boys who have gone on to the NFL. Say what you want. Yes, he does have a larger than life personality, but Coach Prime is a good dad. He loves those two boys. He has looked after them, not only through their college, but also in their draft. You know, was it maybe a detriment to Shador? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an NFL team owner, so I can't tell you that. But,
Would be cool if you were.
it would be awesome if I was. But I mean, that love is there. That thing you want to see from a father, is there. So you got to throw mad respect to Coach Prime as well.
Yeah, even if he is the LeVar Ball of college football, we don't have to necessarily worry about that. But yeah, he's there. He pushes his kids to be great, and not only his own relatives, but you look at what he did with Travis Hunter. He basically took him from Florida State and he said, "No, I want you to come with me to Jackson State. I'm going to turn you into a superstar." And if you paid attention to what's been happening over college football the past couple of years, and I know each of you have, you look at the draft, he was the best prospect in this draft class. And
Sure.
obviously, that's not just something that Deion Sanders thought, because you saw the Jacksonville Jaguars make a huge investment, trading up from 5 to 2 to get him. They said that they felt like they were trading up for 2 players because of the way that he can contribute on both sides of the football. And that is not a blood relative. That is not the offspring of Deion Sanders. But you can't say that he doesn't love him and watch out for him like he was his own kid. So maybe an
Absolutely.
extension of that family and everything like that. Deion Sanders will certainly fight for his own.
And with all that, White Widow Sports, we do want to wish all the fathers out there a very happy Father's Day. Um, and I know Brad and I will be saying a heavily happy Father's Day to our father who just passed. So, um, you know, hug your kids tight, love on them, do everything you can for
For sure.
them. So, I do have one more thing in the sporting world, and it's something that we talk very, very little about. But it came across the news this morning. The World Cup soccer is coming to Atlanta in 2026. So Um, I did. I think it's big for Atlanta. I think it's soccer is a huge sport around the world. I don't have love for it, but I don't have hate for it either. Um,
I
it's a
do.
lot like hockey meets tennis meets I don't know what, but so I'm not gonna probably watch any kind of FIFA, but I may watch a little bit of the games because they are in our home state. So just kind of wanted to get y'all's opinion on that big world stage coming to Atlanta.
Yeah, it's very good for the economy and the city. I have nothing else to say past that.
Well, I mean, you think it's good for the city, but I believe it was Miami that
Mm,
had the World Cup, or one of those World Cup games were being played all around the world,
yeah.
and I think it was the either the Dolphin Stadium or the Marlin Stadium. There's one of these stadiums that was down in Florida, and it got absolutely trashed. I'm talking about the windows and doors to the store were shattered, broken into, just littered all over the place. It was terrible. The vandalism, the crime rates were spiking. Yes, it attracts a lot of people, but not necessarily the quality of people that you would want there. It brings people from all over the world, but so does WrestleMania, so does the Super Bowl, and you don't hear about the same types of uh, bad things happening around those events. Maybe in the city of Philadelphia, when the Eagles win, you hear about it, but to have outsiders from different countries and everything like that that come over and just treat the city so terrible. Atlanta does not need any help being dirty, being crime ridden, being poor. I mean, there's a lot of bad parts of Atlanta. There's a lot of bad things that happen in Atlanta. The World Cup being here, if you like soccer, if you get excited about it, fine. That's on you. At the end of the day, it's still the bigger, more boring version of hockey. So no, I'm not going to watch it. I don't care. Tremendous athletes to be able to run around constantly the way they do, very few breaks, things like that. Can't take anything away from them. But as a sport, I don't like soccer. I never have. I never will. It's not going to change. You can't change my mind. And I'm not as convinced that this is a good thing for the city of Atlanta as maybe what you either of you would think. But certainly big news. I mean, I guess in some ways you would view it as a badge of honor. I would rather see the Olympics come back to Atlanta like they were in '96. I think that would be a cooler thing for the city than something like the World Cup. But maybe I'm just too biased on that subject.
And maybe they learn from Miami, and you beef up the security. I've been to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's a very, very nice facility, and I believe that's where they're going to hold it at. Um, I hope they don't trash that stadium. I don't know that Atlanta's going to let them. You know, yes, there are some bad parts of Atlanta, but there are some very good parts of Atlanta. Um, the Atlanta PD does an excellent job of securing that city. So I think you will see, and with this president and his, I don't want to get too political, but our current president, with his political state on bringing people in and security and his love for the police force and military and stuff like that, I do think you'll see a ramped up security around it, and I pray that we don't see that kind of fallout like Miami did. So
Well, again, I mean, like you said, not to get too political, but the man was willing to call in the National Guard on his best friend, Elon Musk. So I don't think that he's above bringing in military and SWAT and all kinds of stuff to protect one of the bigger cities in America and make sure everything goes. But kind of like you said, I mean, you see my jersey, you see the Julio Jones autograph behind me. I don't hide the fact that I'm a Falcons fan, and so I certainly wouldn't want anything to happen to Mercedes-Benz Stadium either. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I don't know, Chris, did you have anything else that you wanted to touch on, or you want to say bye to the people?
Oh, I'd love to just tell Angel Reese to shut the hell up, by the way. She keeps making a bunch like you're struggling with your game. I understand. You can get better. I believe that with a little practice, but you keep saying stupid things on the internet and it's not helping your cause any. A lot of people, you're not. we put out a short or something to that extent where we were kind of saying some pretty negative things about you. That short and that TikTok and that everything had 100% positive feedback. So I want to know where you're making your fans, and you need to just shut the hell up saying things like you could beat or people could beat Allen Iverson, a women's basketball player could beat a prime Allen Iverson, saying things like your shoes worth $1,000. You gotta know when to shut the hell up. And you're not the only one. There's guys out there. I'm not trying to be anti-women here or anti WNBA. There's guys that need to shut the hell up, and there's people out there that need to tell you to do that because it's going to go a lot better in the long run for you if you stop
Yep.
saying stuff. I know that wasn't on the docket, but when you get online and your whole feed is flooded by this girl saying things that you almost think she didn't say, but apparently she did.
Well, I mean, she says she models her game after Michael Jordan, but I don't
Yeah.
think Michael Jordan ever played in a game where the tickets were $3 a piece, and that was back in the '90s. So I mean,
He also had
it,
speed, agility, shooting. Like,
it,
she has none of that. I don't see where she came up with that. I think she's just spewing nonsense now.
the best thing I saw today was a video of her making fun of Haley Van Lith's shooting motion right before Van Lith sunk a three. What just I mean from 40 feet maybe, and I was like, Angel Reese is making fun of somebody else's shooting technique. I was like, that is the dumbest thing I think you could possibly do at this point. You can't make your layups, and you're basically your highly drafted rookie teammate who's already a better player than you are, a much bigger contributor to your team's what little success that you have.
Yeah.
Admonishing her for her shooting abilities is the furthest thing that I need to see Angel Reese doing at any point in time. But
I guess
we'll
I
have
guess
plenty of opportunities to talk about her shortcomings. I'm very, very positive with that.
I guess just to put it nicely, you should really surround yourself with people that are looking out for your image. And at this point, I don't think she's doing that. So I think that's a good advice for any athlete. Just protect your image. Have people in your ear that are giving you good advice, and know when to not say something crazy.
I think what you're looking for is sit down, be humble.
Yes. Yes.
Anything else, Brian? You want to say bye to the people?
Well, I hope y'all have a good Father's Day, and we'll see you in the next video.
There's one more thing that I just want to say. He's not really a father yet that we know of, uh, but Tyrone Tracy's dad, if I could say one thing, is Cam Scadaboo. And Don, if you're watching this, you need to let it go. Tyrone Tracy is not the starting running back for the Giants anymore. It's Cam Scadaboo. He might be the daddy of the whole league this year. And I just needed to put that out there, get that off my chest, because the disrespect on Cam Scadaboo's name has been unreal lately. People calling him a backup, people calling him a
Mm.
non factor. It will not ever sit well in my presence. You better watch out.
Go Giants.
No.